As we turn now to the activists who are arriving here in Washington, D.C. from across the country for a weekend of protests against a wave of hate crimes and increased police brutality, they say. This week alone, 3 African-American men were shot and killed by police officers in Brooklyn, New York, in Chicago, and in Newark. Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network's leading a march on hate crimes at the Department of Justice today. The Hip Hop Caucus is organizing a rally and concert at the Washington Monument on Saturday. It's called Enough is Enough, Stop Hate Crimes and Police Brutality. Rosa Clemente is the executive director of the Hip Hop Caucus, longtime activist and journalist, joining us here in Washington, D.C. Welcome, Rosa. Tell us about these rallies.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for having us. Well, I mean, look at what's happening. And for us to say enough is just the beginning. Our rally and concert have been organized for a very long time. Post the Gen 6 mobilization, the rape and torture of Megan Williams, the rape and torture of a young mother in Dunbar Village, to Sean Bell last year, to the recent Kyle Coppin, but particularly here in D.C., the case of a young man by the name of DeOnte Rawlings that about 4.5 weeks ago was murdered by the police, the Washington Metropolitan Police. So we're coming here very supportive of what's going on the 16th today here by the National Action Network. But as the Hip Hop Caucus in a generation, we're not seeking much, and we don't believe we're going to get much from the Department of Justice, or really a lot of this governmental intervention is not what we're looking for. What we're really looking for is to bring young people outside, to get them into a place is about with massive amounts of education on the 17th.
Can you talk about these cases of the police killings in New York, in Newark, as well as Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, as a longtime activist in New York, what's interesting is almost 8 years ago, I was on your show for the first time in Albany, New York, when the venue change happened in the Amadou Diallo trial in late 1999, when the trial was moved from the Bronx to Albany. So in terms of the work around police brutality, I've been part of many organizations, Malcolm X grassroots movement, and the People's Justice Committee out of New York. I don't think we're seeing an increase. I think what we're seeing is kind of the standard. It just happens to be in the last year. Yes, okay, we've seen an increase, but what we've been seeing really in the last year is, at this point, a complete disregard for young people's lives, and the police are not even trying at this point to cover up their stories, which is they're just coming out and saying Kyle Coppin had a gun, we had to shoot him, even though this young man had bipolar and his mother had been trying to get him mental health. We have the case of Sean Bell, 50 shots. Almost a year later, now the defense team is asking for a delay in the trial, ironically, to start on February 4th, 2008, 9 years after Amadou Diallo was murdered in the Bronx. But they're also asking for a venue change. So we see this kind of, it's the standard, it's repetitive. But now what we're seeing is a nationwide pandemic. We have in 24 hours, Kyle Coppin in Brooklyn, murdered by the NYPD. An aspiring rapper in a group called Psychodrama out of Chicago, Illinois, murdered at a stop. The young man in Newark, whose name we don't know. And there has been 6 police shootings in D.C. in the last year. And now we've seen the rape and torture of young women of color. So this is part and parcel of just a wave of violence and terror against young people of color, particularly in this hip-hop generation.
Rosa Clemente, I want to thank you for being with us, Executive Director of the Hip Hop Caucus. She's a longtime activist and journalist. The protest will be taking place, the rally that she is a part of tomorrow. Reverend Sharpton's today at the Department of Justice as we wrap up today's broadcast.
Much more than a march. It will be the beginning of a movement. Millions more movement. Let us begin.
Tell us what you did. Dear people of the globe, I hope that you're in good health by the time my voice hit you. I hope it all is well with you. My mission is to build with you, touch upon some real issues. Senators, government officials, sit at the conference and listen. Have a Coke, a mineral water, and say I'm reminiscent of George L. Jackson. Malcolm X's last win when I'm rapping. Americans, Africans, Asians, Russians, and Arab men. Send your clergymen to journey with Nas from Queens, Projects. I promise an unforgettable experience. Compare me with N-Hotep, get in more depth. History was stolen, get in my zone. What makes the powers that be less gangster than Al Capone? The Rosetta Stone was stolen like Chicago was. Think I'm a thug? Let's talk about some conquerors. Napoleon, Sun Tzu, King is Kong, Hitler, Edie Amin, I'm Attila the Hun. Let's bring it back to the cat that invented the gun. From the Indians all the way to the Pentagon. I'm sitting on Capitol Hill. I'm composing this rhyme, guaranteed to make all of y'all feel the beauty that was trapped under siege. Believe in yourself, you'll be free. Take it from me.
We will not surrender, and we will not back down.
We march as millions, Nas, here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. Democracy Now! Is produced by Sharif Al-Qudus, Mike Burke, Nicole Salazar, Anjali Kamet, Steve Martinez, Aaron Mate, Jeffrey Hagerman, as well as Ricardo Lobo. Special thanks to Samantha Chambly joining me here in Washington, D.C., and Becca Staley, and all the folks that made this broadcast possible. I'll be in Baltimore tomorrow morning giving a talk at a regional gathering of Amnesty International. All are invited, 9 a.m. at the Best Western in Baltimore, Maryland. You can go to our website at democracynow.org for a video and audio podcast for the information about the talk tomorrow. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.